Welcome, Earthens. Welcome to a broadcast of the New Millennial Co-Federation of Earth and Planets, of which you are a holy and sacred citizen and a family member and a citizen. You are a beloved child of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. All people are. In this time of a new millennia, I have come as the Paraclete to honor the name of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God, because for thousands of years, humanity has been neglecting the mother aspect and the sister aspect and the cousina, the female cousin aspect of the human family in kinship, and has been ignoring the importance of the feminine in decision making. The balance of love and life on our planet Earth are very much out of balance. And precious children are right now hoping that their older generations can stop the nonsense that they've been doing and transition and transform themselves to a sustainable and indeed a marvelous and miraculous culture that thrives on this planet and in connection with the other planets of the universe. I know such people, and I will show them to you in a little while. This month is associated with many well-known men of democracy. Martin Luther King is the one that most people talk about today. But actually, Martin Luther King and many other of these men came from families of also great women. We don't celebrate the Coretta King holiday, do we? We don't celebrate the Sojourner Truth holiday, do we? The largest number of voters are female. Yet we don't have a Susan B. Anthony Day. We don't have an Alice Paul Day. We had some problems with our technicals here. Seems like we're up and running again. Welcome to our Starry Hours broadcast of the Co-Federation of the New Millennial Golden Rule. I am, as you, an everyday person, a common person. And it is the common royalty of the world that we are here to express representation for and intercessory for, because we are bringing eternal life to all humanity via the New Millennial Golden Rule. Eternal life on this and all the planets of the universe that we will terraform and settle and connect with, also by opening the stargates. I am the predicted Paraclete, the first but not last or only cosmic Christ. Now, I have to be honest with you. I'm a second class Paraclete because I screwed up in much the same way that the previous 2 millennia ago family screwed up, didn't quite address the issue of patriarchy in the family early enough so that my rising came late, belatedly. I won't say late, came belatedly, and the people who would have been most likely to be my best co-Christs initially, my family and community who knew me best, fell back into a pattern that is less ascended at the moment. But we have every good hope for all of them. And we believe that by the real beginning of the new year, the spring, they will all be on this broadcast with me. And you will see an Atlantis risen circle of co-Christs and similar figures of all heritages, co-Kalkis, co-Matreyas, co-Messiahs, co-White Buffalo Calf women. We've already had some on our broadcasts. Co-Zerasiant, co-Messiahs of all the heritages, because via the New Millennial Golden Rule, those who embrace the concept that egalitarian culture is that which allows the human spirit to rise and become risen without death, to achieve apotheosis, as the Greeks called it, the mortal becoming immortal, or as they talk about it in Stargate, become ascended. This is possible, and we can do it. But it is my confession to you that I did not know who I was most of my life, and as a result, I expected both too much and too little of the people around me, because I didn't understand that our conventional ways of thinking lead us into big trouble because they're embedded in kinship patriarchy. I have enough anthropological reading now achieved that I understand that the reason that Mariamma of Magdala and Jesus of Nazareth and Miriam of Nazareth and all their kin and the apostles and the suppressed women apostles did not succeed was that they didn't have the archaeology to tell them about ancient Atlantis that we have today. And they didn't have well-developed social science so that they could literally look at, even via diagrams, the difference between kinship systems that are patriarchal and societies that are built on those, and those that are egalitarian or matrilineal and moving toward egalitarian, which is the more utopian and yet quite possible. And now I am bringing quite real common sense of the common queens and kings that are the everyday people, that are all people, who are all, in fact, the children of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. I invited other people to come and be co-hosts and hostesses and hosts with me to this broadcast. So far, no one has taken me up on the invitation, but I believe that they will by spring, and I am praying and acting for them as an intercessory, so that I am praying nothing adverse happens to them between now and spring, because spring is really, when you think about it, the beginning of a new year. It is when the seeds are just beginning to sprout. It is when the ice is melting and the water is just beginning to flow. It is when the days are brighter. It is a dawn time. So I say that we are premature in celebrating this time as a New Year's, but I will say this. My birthday, my cosmic birthday, that is the day that I was conceived, is December 25th. I am a Christ cosmically in the mind of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. I was conceived on that day through obviously the loving of my mother and father, my earthly mother and father. I was born on earth on September 25th, which is the holiday of Astrea, the goddess of divine justice and mercy, who is the goddess of the Statue of Liberty. And I did not realize how deep within me was the desire to see female and male equally anointed until I had a chance to run for president in the election of the millennial year. And I was officially on the ballot in Maryland as a presidential candidate. But I was running with the wrong, not a wrong person, I was running with an excellent person, a man of Finnish heritage, who was born in Montana, where women first got the vote in the United States. At the time, he lived in Alaska, and I was in Maryland, and we coordinated a campaign together, which we called the We All Win campaign. And we coordinated many other gender-balanced and female tickets, because what we recognized was that there was a problem with continuing a pattern in which only older men become presidents. And it was also quite different from other countries where there were already women presidents and women vice presidents, and in some of the countries, gender parity in their legislatures already by the year 2000. So we ran that campaign. Now, this is a time where in a week of many birthdays, this is the birthday week of Alice Perry Paul, the daughter of, I think her name was Marion, or no, the daughter of Tacy, which I assume is from Anastasia, which means resurrection, Perry. And Alice Perry Paul, through her hunger strikes and her organizations of women during the period while we were just before World War I and or just after World War I too, to bring the vote to women, she went on a hunger strike, knowing that she could die. She was quite badly injured in the attempt to force feed her while she was imprisoned. But she held to her principles, maintained her hunger strike, and thereby, by her courage, brought the vote to hundreds of millions of women who had not been allowed to vote, not for hundreds of years, my dears, for thousands of years. We are in the same condition today. Women have not had parity for thousands of years. They had it in Atlantis. We are Atlantis risen. That is just as good for men as it is for women, because what it gives to men is a sustainable, thriving society with great learning, enormous science, arts, and sports, little income inequity, and no wars, no crime, no despair, no exploitation of one man against another. So we are Atlantis risen. But I apologize to my dearest family, who know who they are, and I hope they're hearing this broadcast. Because had I known who I was earlier on in my life, I would have been more effective at giving them this gift at the best time, at the more optimal moment in their lives. But I don't think it is too late, and I'm praying to Goddess God, it is not too late for anyone, and it is in good time. It is in good enough time, because I'll also tell you, we regard this right now currently as the year 2016, but I'm going to change the calendar. As the Paraclete, I have the authority to do that. As the Cosmic Christ, I'm going to give us a started calendar that integrates all the calendars of Earth. Right now, as a interim moment, I'm thinking maybe we should call this year 2511 or 25-3-4-7-11. I'm not sure. I have to give my thoughts on this matter. But I know that time was stolen from humanity under patriarchy. Patriarchy has always involved a controlled press, the publications, the media. Is it controlled by old men? And the truth of the society and the truth even of politics is not presented there. So that's why we're having another anniversary that we have to remember this week. Around January 11th, 1776, right around the same time that Alice Perry Paul was born 100 years later. No more, well, right around the same month that she was born over a century later. The family of Mary Lambert and Tom Lambert Payne, Mary Lambert Payne and Tom Lambert Payne, achieved some great step forward in the Enlightenment in the writings of Thomas Paine that were distributed in a pamphlet called Common Sense. Common Sense called for a government in which women were fully present and equal, in which there was no slavery, in which indigenous people were full citizens, and in which there was no property requirements for public service and the status as a representative. Now, that was a great step forward, and I have a revelation. Thomas Lambert Payne was the Apostle Thomas reincarnated. We know that Tom Lambert Payne was a skeptic about the traditional belief that many people had in Jesus, but he was a religious man. He did believe very much in a spiritual aspect of the universe, and he said, and I'm sure that Mariam Lambert helped inspire this and agreed with it, my country is the world, and my religion is to do good. He was not interested in nationalistic labels or sectarian labels. He didn't stop where most people stop. His wife, Mariam Lambert, was a contemporary of Mary Wollstonecraft, who actually was about 20 years younger than both Mary Lambert and Tom Paine. She came a little bit later. They would have been around 20 when she was born. And Common Sense was written when Thomas Paine was right around in his 40s, early 40s, I think. And maybe late 30s, early 40s. And Mary Wollstonecraft would have been a little child then. But there were precursors already to her vindications of the rights of women. And there was always within, somewhere in the memories of people, Atlantis, which people then didn't quite realize was a civilization where women were the decision makers and men were their partners in doing so, and they were not underlings and they were not codependents. They were equal decision makers, and they were considered aspects and incarnations of Goddess. So let me give you some screen share and a little bit of music, and we'll continue this broadcast. But I want to apologize, especially to the younger generations of my family and to all the women of my family, by not bringing you together in a circle in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and early 2000s. I failed you, and you fell back into the old way. I was surprised you fell back so easily. It shocks me that women so easily are seduced out of their birthright of equality in North America. It is surprising to me that such well-educated women in certain places like North America, and another place where this is occurring is in Russia, women are highly educated and yet don't have any political organization. They're not helping one another. They're falling through the cracks, and their children are falling through the cracks of increasingly sociopathic and militaristically reckless cultures. So I am here to change all that. I pray all the time to the Mother, Father, Goddess, God, that I am not too late, that my errors are not so great, because I can tell you that Mary of Magdala and Jesus of Nazareth were not perfect either, and neither Jesus was not perfect, and he was my great predecessor, and he would, if he were alive today, he would say it to you, and his representative will say it to you, that Jesus Christ was not perfect, but he was very, very good. He was better than he has been portrayed. So I speak to this as a reincarnated cousina of both Mary of Magdala, therefore, and Jesus of Nazareth, therefore a niece of Mary of Nazareth. That's me, reincarnated. But I'm also Estrella, the goddess of the Minoan, or Atlantis is a better way to describe it, civilization. The incarnated highest priestess considered herself a diva, the way Amma today is considered a diva or Shakti of the Hindu goddess. I was then considered a goddess incarnation. Many women were. It was no big whoop. Everybody thought they were. They had such powers of coordination, intuition, and understanding and decision-making that they recognized they had glorious and divine-like powers. Today, we have capacities that multiply that exponentially, and today we can become like, which I describe myself as, not the Nox of Stargate, but the Equinox, because the virtues of the Nox come out of an egalitarian culture. And like the true Q of Star Trek, the planet savers, who by looking within and looking to their family heritage, if you look at remember the episodes about True Q, she was very interested in her parents. She wanted to know more about her genealogy. And it was in the process of that she discovered her true powers. So I am giving a huge apology to those members of my family who don't feel the courage to come to these broadcasts yet, or the inclination. It is partly my fault that you're not here. But right now, it's mostly your error to not be here. And although I have enormous compassion on every reason for error, our world demands that we achieve divine democracy now. We have to do it. We have to honor the Mother, Father, Goddess, God who created us. It's an obligation, it's an ethical obligation that we have built into us, and we cannot negate. When we try to negate it, we get bad feedback from the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. So I'll put on a screen share and some music. I'll say earlier today, and I'll show you their pictures, we did a major ceremony for our family. Mother Teresa was very wise in her statement when she was asked, how does one make world peace? She said, to make world peace, start with your own family. She did not mean only nuclear family. She meant the extended family in the community, as well as your nuclear family or household family. And what she didn't know is that it also requires an abandonment of patriarchy and a choice of a ongoing Easter without death, or Astra, which is Estra, the divine goddess of the Minoan or the Atlantis civilization, in every person. The Statue of Liberty existing within every person, female and male. Now, it certainly did exist in the spirit of Thomas Lambert Paine, who gave common sense around January 11th, 1776. We have not followed common sense, have we? People run around talking about our founding fathers of the Constitution that was written in 1789. The 1789 Constitution completely betrayed common sense. It kept women out, it made slavery illegal, it set up a property requirements, and it kept indigenous out. Of their own native land, they were kept out. Their own sacred grounds. That's why the white calf buffalo women who did participate in the broadcast recently are very important for us to be thinking about. We are all on native heritage land here. They came before us Europeans came to this part of the world. We do owe them a great deal, and we have to learn from them. And many of their tribes were not patriarchal, but they were matrilineal, matrifocal, and they teach us something about kinship systems and the importance of clan mothers to an ethical heritage that binds people together and helps them create circles that create sustainable culture, not flash in the pan, you know, slam bam, thank you, man, have a great couple of 100 years and then you're all gone. So, because that's what patriarchal cultures do. They have a couple of great 100 years for a while, a couple of old men get rich, and then everybody all disappears. They destroy themselves. So we have the social science to make this clear now. And I am delivering this to you in a combination of deep spirituality and very simple application of social science. I am the Paraclete. I am also Equinox True Q. First but not last or only cosmic Christ, a human apotheosis, and I invite you to become so with me and know that you already are. And you who I have invited to this broadcast repeatedly, you have no idea how much I love you, because I knew you more deeply, and I knew you as children, some of you. And my love for you is so extremely great that I will be your intercessory. And I pray to the Goddess God that you will not be harmed by your error at this time, and that you will grow into your full apotheosis. And by spring, we will really deliver a much better state of the union address that is even better than the I have a dream speech, because it will be, I have a dream that we have made real. And I live the dream, and the dream is reality. It is that good. So I'm going to give you a screen share and some music.
I should have said, oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. More people need to see what I've seen. They need to see.
These are the spiritual as much as physical voyages of the Co-Federation Solar Sun-Our Starship Planet Earth, restored to heaven on our every earth as our spiritual, genealogical, local, global, universal Voyager and shared her and his family community enterprise. Our new millennial year's mission to rediscover and re-understand, sustain, and explore are and all are in fact familiar new worlds of family community, of the tree of love, life, and light throughout the solar system and universe, to restore, renew, and sustain our and new life and new sustainable civilizations, past, present, retroactively, and now, balance, and future, always balancing, to lovingly, demethodologically, and boldly become and be space-time travelers whenever and where we have interdimensional reality, all in part been before, it also never been before, in alternative space-time lines that are circles, which are of the universal EQ, IQ, and SQ continuum. Balance, combinations of the ever-expanding circle which spirals and grows, budding and blooming in space-time. Love and live enlightened, ever young, long, and prosper all both in each. And every one engage your heart, mind, soul, and body, for we all, both and each both and all, can, must, and marvelously and miraculously make it so.
In the thunder's blast, she emerges, her eyes on fire, the mighty priestess. She is risen from the nativity of Calvary. She is risen from the fires of the earth. She is risen. She is risen.
We are risen.
She is risen. She's risen.
We are risen.
May the circle be overwhelming. May the love of the goddess be ever in your heart. Bury thought, and we meet again. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. Om Mahalakshmi Gunapriya Maharupa Mahapudya Mahapadaghanashini Mahamaya Mahasattva Mahashakti Maharati Mahabhoga Maheshwarya Mahavidya Mahabala Mahabuddhi Mahasiddhi Mahayogeshwareshwari Mahatantra Mahamantra Mahayantra Mahasana Mahayagatpramaradhya Om Mahabhairava Pujita Maheshwara Mahakalpaka Mahatandava Sakshini Mahakavesha Manishi Mahatripura Sundari Chatushtashti Upachararya Chatushtashti Kalamani Mahachatushtashti Koti Yogini Janasevita That's really good. No. No words. No words. Describe. I should have said, oh, so beautiful. Beautiful. So beautiful. people need to see what I've seen. They need to see.
This day I call the heavens and the earths as witnesses intercessorily for and hopefully and prayerfully not against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose love and life with light, so that you and your children may live. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not our new millennial law.
You see, we've been joined by a very holy creature here. This is a creature whose name is Dawn. Her name is Dawni Aurora Feliz, a happy dawn, a new beginning. And she's speaking to all humanity too, because we must become the stewards of all the life on this planet, not only human life, but all the marvelous, miraculous creatures that God has made for us. And we are in the middle of a mass extinction event instead, because we have not stewarded properly. And these creatures are dependent on us, and we are dependent on one another to change our ways now, to become a sustainable society and civilization that is global. And so we have to recognize that we have not been doing our best on this planet. Now, I'm going to show you the people I believe in the most, who have given me the greatest hopes and yet also great sadness right now, who I act intercessorily for, because my family, your family, the people that you love the most and are closest to you on your genealogical family tree, are placed there for a reason by the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. We are incarnated and reincarnated in groupings to bring together certain talents and abilities that are nurtured by our ancestry, not only through the combination of genes, but through the caring love of mothers, especially, of entire family systems, cousins, cousins, aunts, uncles, as well as fathers. And the fact that we have lost that kinship awareness in North America, and we define ourselves according to nuclear familyhood, or in the case of so many divorced families, atomic familyhood, has deprived us of something very rich. The internet gives us a chance to reclaim it. Google's Hangouts are the best thing that could possibly happen for family reunions. Makes it very easy. You don't have to travel. It's your heart that travels, and your mind, and your sight, but your body doesn't have to get on trains and planes and buses and cars. But it can later on, once you've made the reconnection. So I want to encourage you to understand that Mother Teresa was right, that the risen culture of this planet and the universe starts with your family. And when you exclude or degrade yourself or any other members of your family in order to fit in with patterns and expectations of a larger society that has lost its way, which is what patriarchy does over time, then so much gets lost in human genius. Females are slightly more than half of humanity. Every social science study will tell you now that their intelligence is equal to that of males. Yet by the time they reach adulthood, and especially older adulthood, many older women are put out to pasture. They become a little bit more than doting curiosities to their families that are obsessed with the opinions of old men who are presented on television as leaders. This is extreme imbalance. Luckily, we have organizations now like the 13 Indigenous Grandmothers and others who, other organizations where women are coming together. Women like Jean Shinoda Boland, who has brought women together in so many circles. But even she does not know her own value, because if she did, she would be running this hangout instead of me. But she doesn't quite know, and she's waiting for older men to give her a pat on the head of approval from the United Nations, which has become co-opted and is not likely to do it just for a while. And I don't think we need to wait, because our world can't afford to wait. So I'm doing it. I'm doing it in the name of my own sister, my own cousines, my own nieces and nephews. I have a beloved nephew who I helped raise, who taught me intergenerational thinking. These people are here, but they are not yet on the co-hosting with me, and I want them to. Now, I have other young cousines who I've met over the internet, and their mothers. I've learned of them through the internet. My family is coming back to me through the internet. We have an incredibly marvelous and miraculous genealogy in our family tree of humanity on this planet. Our family has been in Israel, in Atlantis, in India, in China, in Hungary, in Romania, in Mexico, in Canada, in Argentina, in Australia, and you know what? Yours has too. New Zealand, yours has too. South Africa, yours has too. Yours has too. Because we are all on this earth, archaeologists and anthropologists are now quite clear about it, no more than 50th cousina and cousin from every other person who has ever lived and who is alive today. We're that closely interwoven on our family trees. It doesn't seem so because we don't have very long memories, most of us. A lot of families don't keep any genealogical records, especially North Americans, and we don't really think about all the nurturing that has gone on to make it possible for us to be here. But it has gone on, and it is the reason why we are here. And it is the reason why we have time to think, to develop new ways of understanding human beings, of creating technological innovations that help human beings and that help all the creatures of this planet and all planets to be beneficent, to be in balance, to be enlightened, to be risen. So I'll show you some of my family very quickly, and then we're going to spend a little time talking about the famous people of this time, January, including, we're going to focus on Alice Perry Paul, born January 11th, Hannah Greenbaum Solomon, born January 14th, who brought women together in congresses and interfaith congresses. Gina Davis, who has played a president on television, who has given us some of the most immortal characters of art, and who has developed her focus on the issue of what our media is doing to the female self-esteem. And as well as Coretta, wife of Martin, and all of their daughters, as well as their sons, and how they were influenced by another family where the famous mother, Kasturba Kapadia, was born on the 11th of a spring month, 411, the number that means information, and is also the date of my nephew's birth. Now, we have other young women in our family whose births are on 311, which is considered the holiday period of Esther, which is a shortened version of Astra, which is the goddess of the Statue of Liberty. And it was Esther who was promised 50-50 by Xerxes or Ahasuerus. She was the greatest heroine of compassion and extreme daring, because at that time, a woman who stood up for anything very often had herself put in chains or worse. So, much worse. So, we have women of that on our family tree, and we now have understood our deep revelation that you cannot have a living Easter unless you regard the living Esther as important first, co-first. And it is the divine feminine and the divine masculine in intersection that is what a cross is. And the ancient symbol of the cross used to be put in a circle. It didn't stand without the circle. It was put within the circle to imply the importance of the circle, the geometry of a circle, which is flow and connection of all people and equality. And the same with the Shri Yantra, or which is also called the misnomer, the Star of David. It really should be called the Star of Diva and David, or Diva and Devi and Deva. In other words, the feminine and the masculine in intersection, and that's what the two intersecting triangles do mean, both in Hinduism and in Judaism, in the Kabbalah understanding of Judaism, the mystical interpretation of what that symbol really means. David was very much in error. He lived in extreme patriarchy, and his times were violent, and although he was an inspired person, he betrayed Michal, his wife, and all of the women of his times, and they betrayed one another because they were practicing patriarchy. And they had a better example. I think Atlantis actually preceded that time. It certainly preceded Maryam of Magdala and Jesus of Nazareth time, and left its mark in Israel. We have now know at the Tel Kabri ruins found in the Galilee that the ancient Atlantis civilization did reach the Galilee and was there and was teaching its ways, likely impacting the Essenes or the Gnostics who came later in that area and gave rise to the extremely profound insights of Maryam of Magdala and Jesus of Nazareth. These were my cousines and cousins. Their families were my cousines and cousins. I am their youngest cousina, and I am risen to lift you all up. But again, I think even more importantly, the risen Estrella, the goddess of the Statue of Liberty. Now, Tom Paine spent a lot of his time in New York. After Mary Lambert passed away in England, he came to the United States to favor the revolution and really to start it. Common sense started the revolution. He was truly the father of the American Revolution in saying goodbye to monarchy and goodbye to aristocracy. But lo and behold, here in the year 20, whatever year you want to call this, because we've had stolen years because of a controlled media, so we lost time. We've been living in a lie. It's like we were locked away in a dark cave, but we lost time. And so we really can't say this is 2016. It isn't 2016 mentally. We lost too much time being lied to. So, oh yeah, they're busy telling you they're having debates. Come on. Get with the program, people. You want to know what a circus is? You're looking at it. I'm the real thing. And you're the real thing. You're the common sense. And if you read the New Millennial Golden Rule, you'll understand it is neighborhood-based divine democracy with great respect for the extended family tree and the local community, where life is really lived, where children are really abundantly seen, where older people are there, where middle-aged people are there, where all the intergenerations people are there and are supposed to be loving thy neighbor, female and male, as thyself, with respect, with listening, with hearing, and with shared decision-making. The components of the New Millennial Golden Rule are the Panchat Raj of India, the gift of Kasturba and Mahatma Gandhi. Kasturba is a springtime birthday. Mahatma is celebrated, his day of remembrance in India is January 30th, the day after the day of birth of Tom Paine. Richard Attenborough, who made the movie Gandhi, wanted to make a movie about the family of, and his movie is very much including Kasturba. There's quite a bit about Kasturba in that movie and the other women of the time, Maribel and other women who worked with Mahatma Gandhi. It isn't just about Gandhi. It's got a lot of women in it. And they were profound, and they impacted him, and they influenced him. And he wrote quite abundantly that it was his mother's fasting that taught him the leverage that can be brought from nonviolent protest, such as by fasting and other methods of satyagraha. He learned it from his mother. He said so. He wrote so. Yet we forgot her name. People don't remember her name in India. They are not celebrating to the extent they should Kasturba, his wife, who went to jail just as much as he did and actually died in prison. Or passed away, because we don't think her spirit is passed. She is in the universe, and she's waiting for the Stargate to be opened, perhaps by someone who bears her birth date. That person is in my family. But that family has to be, that birth date for 11 has to be added to be the 311 of Purim, or the 50-50 promise to Esther, in the biblical telling, and linked back to the Atlantis time when the women did have 50-50, and they were all Estras. They were all goddesses of the goddess Estrella. They were all living incarnations of her. Not just one. I shouldn't be the only one who thinks she's a goddess. Come on, ladies. You have enormous powers of nurturing, of estrogen-based intuition, and extremely good decision-making that sees the future, especially with regard to the balance of nature, a little bit better than a lot of men do. Most men do. There are exceptions to every rule, but a lot of men rely upon the deeper wisdom of women in dealing with nature. And so you're very, very important, and you're not treating yourself like that. In North America, you're treating each other like all you have to do is buy latte and watch the Kardashians. Huh? Where is the goddess in that? That's a phony baloney celebrity, not goddesshood. We want the real thing, real democracy, divine democracy. You can bring it. I want you to come here and we'll talk about it together. I want you to co-host this broadcast with me. I'm looking for my circle. Come, ladies, step forward and don't be afraid, because you have the ultimate protection here of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. I am their intercessory. Nobody's going to touch me without this planet being destroyed. I'm not kidding. Now, I worry very deeply about my younger generations because they're surrounded by mothers and fathers who do not know about the difference between egalitarian culture and patriarchy. Either they don't know or they don't want to know. They don't want to look at themselves in the mirror. They don't want to look at their own daily patterns. They don't want to look at the way their neighborhood is going about their business or not their business. And they don't want to look at their capitals of their so-called nations and what they're doing to one another and what the corporations are doing with the money that they could have invested in solar power 25 years ago. Now, one of the nice things about the New Millennial Golden Rule is after a relatively brief time, because it supports the solar and renewable energy transition, humanity won't need money. We'll be living like Star Trek. We won't need money. We will have matter energy transfer, and we will have other unique powers of balancing and healing, making great use of nature, such that really you won't miss money. You won't miss not having that money, that big pouch in the bank. Even the wealthy people won't miss it. The so-called wealthy today, they won't miss it because they'll have the powers. Just watch Star Trek and look at the Q. Look at the self-confidence of that character. He bounced all over the universe at the snap of his fingers, and so did she in the True Q episode. They didn't need money. They don't need money. They have everything. They have the whole universe. You have that in large part through the computer right now. I need to attend some of the other broadcasts on this wonderful modality because I want to associate at the homes and be welcomed in the homes, the computer hangout homes of my sisters and brothers, and they are welcome to mine. So I'll show you a couple of pictures. Now, one of the things you'll see on our website is I'll show you a couple of pages that you need to know about during these days, and I'll read again tomorrow morning the essay, "We All Have a Dream to Make Reality Now." I'll, of course, read the New Millennial Golden Rule, its components. Let's see, we're having trouble pulling up our website. Hold on one moment. I'll be right with you. All right. First, we're going to look at the New Millennial Golden Rule. And then we'll look at the I Have a Dream speech. I would rather you read it and come back and discuss it with me than give pontificating speeches. I wrote it. I wrote it as an intersectional version of what Martin Luther King talked primarily about race. My version talks about gender, race, class, primogeniture, birth order status, all of the isms, the nationalisms that get in their way, all of the things that patriarchy, all of the ills that patriarchy brings. That's my Our Have a Dream is a little bit more comprehensive now. It is a woman who developed the concept of intersectional injustice. Our world is suffering from intersectional injustice. A lot of the people who are most deprived right now are women, and often minority women, wherever they are not in the majority in wherever locality they have on this earth. Yet we know that all of the colors of the rainbow are equally important for the rainbow. Do we not know that? Okay, now I'm going to screen share again so you can see various pages at the website 5050now.wordpress.com, which is sort of where I give my written sermons on the Mount. And there's lots of great essays there and quite a bit to learn, and I recommend that you spend the 2 or 3 hours at most, maybe over a couple of days, reading everything on that website. And then your life will be complete. You'll know just what to do, and there'll be no questions, and except that we can question and answer how we can accomplish this together most efficaciously. Okay. Yes, my dear. Yes, my dear, we're presenting. You ready to be presenting, Tony Aurora Feliz? Yes, my darling kitty cat. And your sister is right here too, right in the room with us, Maria Rainbow Sweetheart. Waiting for the screen share to show. Takes a little while on this computer. I'm sorry for the delay. Here we go. Now, this page shows the New Millennial Golden Rule. It's called the New Millennial Gold. It's at 5050now.wordpress.com. The New Millennial Golden Rule has 3 conceptual components and 2 important spiritual components, 5 pillars. The conceptual components are, number 1, the Panchayat Raj, which is the law of all the villages of India, that decision-making has to be balanced by gender, 50-50, female and male, and that all the minorities present in the village have to be fully represented. That is the law of all the villages of India. It is the fulfillment of Kasturba and Mahatma Gandhi's dream and vision. So we have to remember Kasturba. And by her birthday, April 11th, which is also the birthday of a beloved member of my family, we also have to remember, even before then, the Esther story of the 50-50 of the biblical story, which occurred in Iran or Persia, and put these various time frames together in our head in a circle of expanding time travel with common sense. Understand that both those cultures had plenty of women and plenty of minorities, and those are illustrative of what the New Millennial Golden Rule helps us to do properly, to bring eternal life not only to minorities and to women, but to the majorities and to men. This is what Mariam of Magdala and Jesus were talking about when they said, everyone is equally anointed, female and male, equal in Christ. Christ means anointed in Greece, female and in Greek, female and male, master and slave. Greek and Jew was the way they phrased it, but what they meant is that everyone is equally anointed in the love of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. Mariam of Magdala and Jesus of Nazareth lived at a time that was profoundly patriarchal. No one talked about the goddess in that ancient time of Israel, even though a couple of thousand years before they sure did. They talked about Ezhera all the time, and now archaeologists have unearthed the tree of life dedicated to Ezhera in the Temple of Mount on Temple of Solomon, wrongly called Temple of Solomon. He had a wife. She was an Egyptian princess. She was forgotten. They don't even write her name down. How do you like that? And they found all these Ezhera figures, which was similar to what many people all around the world had, figures of goddess that they kept with them to inspire them. Now, I don't believe that we need to make little totem figures, although maybe it can be helpful at times. But the spirit of the universe is not definable by a totem or one woman or one figure. It's in everyone. It's in everything. The divine feminine is there along with the divine masculine. The yin is always there with the yang, and they contain each other. So it's a circle, and it's always flowing. So it's the give and take. It's the 50-50. That's really what a yin yang flow flowing diagram is, and it's always turning round and round, so that no one stays on top and no one stays on bottom, and it's always flowing. And it's mostly represented vertical. Sometimes you see it as horizontal, and it looks like one part of the yang is over the yin, but that's not the proper understanding of the yin-yang figure. It should be shown in the verticality like a cross, because it is showing that both the dignity of the female and the dignity of the male are critical to both. So you'll see now, so the Panchat Raj, the second component is the genuine progress indicator, which you'll read about on that website. We already have it established firmly as law in Maryland, thanks to the wisdom of the people who advised the Curran O'Malley family that was in the government of Maryland, and held many conferences that brought together people from various states and various countries here in Maryland. And that's the second component. We have to switch out of the wrong accounting process, which is destroying our world. The gross domestic product is destroying our world. Robert F. Kennedy said it was destroying our world in 1968. It is now destroying our world at such a clip that we pretty soon won't have a world if we don't switch to the genuine progress indicator yesterday. The third component is the circle process, which we're trying to get going here with you on these broadcasts. We want to invite you to come, and we'll form circles, and I will give everyone a number. It will go around the circle in the presentation. We'll be able to show your face online, but we'll go around in an order. Each person will talk, and when they're ready to, as what is usually called, pass the feather, they'll say, I pass the feather to the next person, and then it will be that person's turn to talk, and we'll go around and around and around the circle until we have fully digested the topic. And we'll start out with the topic of what is the difference between a patriarchal culture and an egalitarian culture. That's the numero uno topic. What is the difference between a society that remembers the divine feminine and a society that relegates it, if remembers it at all? And so those are the three conceptual components. And the fourth component is you, holy person, who are hearing this broadcast. You and your family and your community forming a circle. You, and you. Starting with women, bringing in youth age 37 and younger, both female and male. And then after about 18 months of that process of discussion and decision making, then bringing in the older men. During those 18 months, the older men have to sit down and talk about certain things, like the massive presence of wife abuse on this planet, like impulse control, like violent tendencies, and the struggles that the masculine has in containing itself in an interconnected planet where there are no saber-toothed tigers anymore to slay, and needs to have channeled outlets of sports and other mechanisms for men to express their testosterone in a constructive way. And also, they also need to discuss their alienation from children and why they have not fought harder to spend more time with their own children, and why the women of this world are not working with them on that. They are in Europe. In Europe, that is a big focus of the children and family ministries of countries like Austria and Germany, where they have 3 and 4 years paid family leave and give quite a bit to the men too. We haven't had any of that. We haven't had it discussed here at all. I guess American men don't like children. Is that right? Is that right? Guys, you need to discuss that. And after you do that, you can come into the circle with the women and the youth age 37 and younger, female and male. And then we will help, after you've had those discussions with each other and you've held each other accountable and you've looked at your bloody record on this planet as a gender, then We will help you to beat your swords into plowshares, to say you don't need all those nuclear weapons anymore. It's not a phallic symbol, and you don't need it. And to experience yourself as a risen person, as a true Q, as a powerful person who can travel in space-time and who doesn't need toys like nuclear weapons to make himself feel powerful, but instead can reach the far reaches of the universe through the stargates and in solar-powered vessels that we are going to have. That's your future, guys. Like it? Guys did most of the invention of the internet. Guys have good spatial technological abilities. Many of them do. It's inbuilt into the way their brains are built. Some women do too, but across the broad brush, women are a little bit better at the intuition about time and emotional relationship and relationship to growing nature and nurturing. And these are extreme skills and extreme knowledges that have to be integrated into decision making. They are better peacemakers in general. But right now in North America, that's breaking down. American women have become so male identified that they're functioning as drones instead of as females. They're not functioning in many ways in the traditional manner of their strengths. And we have to get that back for them. They've lost quite a bit in a misbegotten feminist movement that focused more on abortion than it did on representation and balance of love and work. So this is on this page. Now another page of this website, which we will read from tomorrow because I think it's getting a little bit late for me to read from. I'll see if I have time tonight. Is the page under the sermons section called "We All Have a Dream to Make Reality." Of women have agreed, and they know about it, and they know what they've already decided. We already know from polls what women want. They want solar energy, they want family leave, they want equity, they want social peace, they want world peace. We already know this. They've already decided what they want. We just have to say so as a body. So we've said so as a body. Now we have to communicate it to every neighborhood on earth that they can say so within their neighborhood. And then we'll have divine democracy in every neighborhood. See how simple this is. I'm really a good paraclete. I made it real simple. It's not a blueprint. It's a pink, green, and rainbow colored print. It does include blue, but it is not only blue. Please. Okay, so now we're going to the, I'm going quickly to the page. First, I'm going to show you among the representatives, you, and you. Here are some of my most promising family, and I'm trying to help them realize their potential. They seem to be running away from it, but I'm working on it anyway. And I know that they'll come back to it because things are going to get so awful if they don't, that they're going to want to come back to it. So. Among the representatives, you, and you. And here we show the different heritages of liberation for women, some of them, and love your mother. And we have this beautiful saying of Mitakuye Oyasin, which our White Cap Buffalo women here came to the broadcast and spoke of the other day. We have the goddess figures of various cultures, the May Day, the spring goddesses of March, April, and May, and June months, which are particularly associated with the feminine. And Estrella, who is the divine justice of the autumnal time, also associated with the feminine. Here we have Mariam of Magdala as an inheritor of the wisdom of divine Atlantis, who is the goddess of the Statue of Liberty. Estrella, the divine justice goddess, and also her relationship to the concept of a new dawn, Aurora, and the new dawn of Apollo, the goddess and god of the sun, of the more later Hellenistic Greeks, that is within all of us. And also we show here too, you can't see it very clearly, Radha and Krishna and Mariam of Magdala and Jesus of Nazareth. We have other diagramming showing Anne and the mother of Mary, or Mariam, and her sister Elizabeth, who was the mother of the sisters, I'm sure, of John the Baptist. These women were Couzinas, and they were holy. And their children, female and male, were holy. And not just their children, but all of the women and all of the children of that era were holy, but they didn't know it because they were locked into patriarchy. So they sought one man to help them out of it. And he did, significantly, but not far enough. That's why he said I would come and explain the rest. And here I am. Okay, and we show our consciousness currencies that all of these people will be using. We have women we started with homeless women from every region of Earth, women who are skilled in anthropology. Here we have the pictures of Szheduled and her daughters, who should be considered the UN Secretary Generals, Co-Secretary Generals, Co-Saviorahs right now. We do not need a male, yet another male Secretary General of the United Nations. What are we missing here a little bit? Are we Atlantis risen, or are we just some more apes? Which are we going to be? Anyway, lots of, you can go to this page, and then here's me giving my sermon in front of a homeless shelter where the women are generally often very nice, but they can't make it in dog-eat-dog society, so they wind up in a homeless shelter, and they have problems that come out of trying to cope and accept a dog-eat-dog patriarchal society. And so this was one of the homeless shelters in my region that I gave a sermon for. And here is my namesake, Ellie. I am Raj Ellie, and she discovered the way to open the stargates. She was the product of the imagination of my Cousina's husband, my Cousina Lynn Margulies, the mother of the Gaia effect. And this is, well, I should say our Cousina, because I have many other sisters and sister Cousinas who she is Cousina to too. But the main character is Ellie, and I'm an Ellie. It is the name, it is the word that means the young female in French, and it also is the ancient Hebrew and Aramaic name El for the deity process. And I say L-E-L-E shows the ability to time travel front and back and forth, to have reciprocality, to go back and forth, to be interactive the way a yin-yang symbol is interactive, is implied in the Ellie syllable, and it can be also applied to men, therefore, too, that men are also capable of Elliehood, traveling back and forth in time. The ancient Atlantis language was written both left to right and right to left. It was not just one or the other. It was both. And that's what we mean by yin and yang in balance. These are examples of the thinking that you can begin to develop. And here are all the people from Europe. Got huge numbers of women from Europe, 11 literate homeless women, political and science and genealogy experts, and then the political leaders have worked on parity and achieved, all of them and all their great and grandchildren, their nieces and nephews, female and male, age 37 and younger. Here is the one with from North America. We show Swanee Hunt, who's worked on political parity for a long time, leading the pack, and there's others, Jean Shinoda Boland, Rianne Eisler especially. And we also have our own family, which is very, very gifted, and don't know how gifted they are in this area, because our geographical separation separated us at a formative moment for women, and we lost the circle. And so the women of this grouping are not functioning fully to their capabilities, but I believe they have them, and their nieces and nephews and daughters and sons are here. My most beloved are right here. My sister, my nieces and nephews, they're right here. And they know that they are members of this. They know that they are. They just are letting me speak for them. So I'm speaking for them. And here's more, many women. Many are quite famous and some are unknown. Shirley MacLaine, obviously. Pearl Means, Russell Means' wife. Phyllis Chesler. A whole bunch of very famous women in this culture. Obviously, the Hallowell, Margulies Clinton family of females. But we do not call Hillary Clinton a president. We call her a co-secretary general, co-saviora of the new millennial golden rule. As soon as she is able to adopt it, she will be much more powerful than she could be as a president. And that any man could be as a president, because eventually this is also to be applicable to men. We will be co-secretary general, co-savioras. What that means is we will have enormous powers, and we will not need centralized federated nationalities, because we will be thinking globally. We will be living locally, globally, and universally. We will be Q. We're going to have space-time travel abilities. We are going to open the stargates. You don't need a nation. What do you need a nation for? You have a planet now. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a national culture to some extent. You develop certain food talents, certain grasses and flowers grow here, but they don't grow there as well. And they define certain boundaries in a way, naturally. But the imposed boundaries that we have of so many different nations is an illusion and a delusion that comes out of patriarchy. In parts, and these are secondary identities. Our first identity is our humanity and our earthenhood. We're all of one planet, and the weather moves from one place to another. It's all interconnected. It isn't separated by borders. You can't have the people in Canada say to the thunderstorm, "No, thunderstorm, you can't come into Canada because you're only there in the United States." It doesn't work like that. Nature doesn't work like that. And we all know that. The question is, why don't we live according to nature? Because we got caught up in patriarchy, and it got us very confused. That's the truth. I'm the paraclete. I know. Got it? And there's lots of famous women of husbands who think they're holding office. I say that Michelle Robinson Obama and Lois, who is her mother, who lives in the White House, have more ability to lead their world right now than Barack did. I've told them that. I've written them and called them. I haven't heard back, because I've come to understand that a lot of the women in the political sphere are living out an electra complex or are fearful of expressing their true leadership abilities. Now, I do thank Goddess God for Hillary Clinton's willingness to run for president. However, her model for the nation remains within a patriarchal model. And her model for the world remains in a patriarchal model. And I give her a better model in which she has more power, not less. And also all of the men who are running for president right now, I give it to their wives. They come in first. They come into the divine democracy first. Their guys can come in a little bit later. They will come in, but they have to make room for their wives and their sisters and their cousines and their mothers to come in first, and their daughters. We opened the door to all of these women. We've already made consciousness currencies with their pictures. We consider them more important than all the male presidents that you could possibly, put on a pseudo debate candidates. And here are some more of it. Here is Anna Marie singing cricket and her mother, Ma Patricia, on Consciousness Currency. They are the White Calf Buffalo women who were with us the other night. And here is our own family, our living Mariam, and our living Esther. We have others of living Esthers in other parts of the world. A young Esther, a young Esther's mother. Here are our great and grandmothers of my branches of family, most well known to our family. We have on this picture, this was before I had put Lynn Margulies also is among them. We have other famous Margulies women who could also be added here. These are the ones known best to our small grouping, but we are actually connected to a larger group and their generations. These are people who are currently very deeply caught in patriarchy, but we know that it will break down on them. And we're waiting and praying that that breakdown is not so great that they can't recover from it and then choose the better path of the new millennial golden rule. And we have other famous women from North America, and we have women from every continent here. Here's Europe. There's Sylviane Agacinski. Here is South America. Here are the women of the Phoenix organization in Guatemala, which is going solar and creating great goods for the people there. Here's more from Europe. This is Angela Merkel, obviously, has her own currency. This is Corinne Kumar, the developer of the Courts for Women, the Women's World Courts. We have, here's the country, the Esther Herzog's Women's Parliament of Israel. So many women in India of the Panchayat Raj and many other presidents and presidents of parties, and the women of India show the reflection of a goddess culture. They're very, very active in their political realm, and they're bringing up even illiterate women are moving up faster than North American women are moving into political office of good decision making. We need to learn from them. Here's Malala. Here is the women of Tiananmen Square holding up the Statue of Liberty there. Here is Socorro Reyes of Philippines, Corazon Aquino. We actually have a picture, which I'll show you in a moment, of Coretta King and Corazon Aquino. The two names mean the heart or the crown. They have so much in common. How come we don't realize that? Marilyn Waring. Anyway, this is our parliament. You can see all of these women are very achieved, but some of them are very unknown and are considered less achieved. They're homeless, but they are important to the understanding. And the most important thing is to gather your own community of women and youth together. That circle is where the real power is. And when that circle forms, we will engage, and this society will take off and be in Star Trek. And that's why a guy like Patrick Stewart, who played Jean-Luc Picard, said that men need to focus on their abusiveness toward women. Quote, "The people who could do most to improve the situation of so many women and children are in fact men. It is in our hands to stop violence toward women. It is in the hands of men to stop violence, and not with guns, but with talking and forming circles about why their gender puts women down, lets women put themselves down, and doesn't do anything about that." So used to the hegemony of patriarchy that they're not thinking like men of Atlantis, which they need to become. And we are going to give them, and they will become Atlantis risen and have eternal life like the true Q and the equinox. And these are our representatives of our next generation. We have a young princess that we have in our family, a young prince that we have in our family. They are Princess and Prince of Peace. We are praying for them because their mothers and their fathers don't seem to get it because they watch television. They don't know anything. They don't watch the right things on television. They forgot what they saw on Star Trek, and they're too busy watching nonsensical circus debates that mean nothing to anybody. So So anybody who thinks, okay, now let me show you, again, you've seen the consciousness currencies of our family. I'm going to show you our essay, which has the I Have a Dream speech made intersectional, dealing with gender. That's here under the sermons on the Mall and Maryland, Earth and Planet. And we all have a dream to make reality now. That is the one. I guess I will read a section of it now. Why not? This is the time. I'll read it. I guess I'll read it on Monday. That's a day when we tend to celebrate Martin Luther King. But I want to celebrate Coretta and his daughters and their daughters. Not his daughters, their daughters. Bernice and I'm forgetting the second daughter's name. One of them passed away already because she wasn't appreciated. You know, she just, you know, her culture was so busy making a big hero of Martin Luther King, the one father figure, that we lost the fact that he was supported by so many women, including Rosa Parks, who we do have a consciousness currency for, as just as important as he was, and he knew it. It's we who don't know it. He knew it, just as Gandhi knew the women of his time were as important as he was. The great men know it. It's the women who don't know it about themselves. Okay, so that's that essay. That's about, no, let me read from, let me show you some of the consciousness currencies of these people who have their birthdays right now. I think we're still on screen share. Let me make sure. Oh, we lost the screen share. Well, that won't help you. I've been talking all kinds of things with pictures you haven't been able to see, but you can go to the website and find it. You'll know what I'm talking about. Now, I may not sound like a paraclete to you because I don't talk in biblical parables, but this is the 21st century, and we talk in terms of websites and links. That's our biblical language now. Okay. Now let me come back to this and give you. Okay, I'm going to show you some of the people that we want to celebrate right now. We do have a consciousness currency for Alice Perry Paul, birthday January 11th. A power number, 1 L even. You remember what I told you about the meaning of L. And her mother's name was Perry, almost a precursor to parity. You might think of her as Alice Parity Paul. And P standing for perfection, and A standing for all, and U standing for universal, and let's put a double L in there for love and light. Now let me see if I can find the consciousness currency for Alice Paul. The members of my family are so holy, and they don't know it. Their holiness has been removed from them by their attempts to fit in with patriarchy too hard. These are so many of the members of my family are father hungered or programmed to expect leadership only from older men. They have the leadership. They have the genius, I tell you. The young women and the young men and the women themselves, and they just don't know their own value because they didn't know the values of their mothers and their grandmothers. And once you devalue your mother and your grandmother, you lose your own value to yourself. And especially if you devalue not only your mother and your grandmother, but their Shekinah. If you devalue women, you're going to devalue yourself at some level, or your concepts of your own value are distorted. Okay, here's Alice Perry Paul. I'll show you a picture that I found on the internet of her and her mother, Tacy Perry. This is Alice Paul. This is Tacy Perry. And so I made a consciousness currency with her most famous words. She said, "Deeds, not words." That's one of the quotes of Alice Paul. She was a person of strategic action. You might say she was a strategist for protest actions. But she herself didn't think of calling herself a co-president. It didn't occur to her. And that's what I am doing with these consciousness currencies, and I'll show you her consciousness currency in the moment. She is a co-secretary general, co-sevira, even a better word now, because we are thinking globally now. Every website can be translated by totally cost-free software in a few minutes. There is no barriers that is preventing us of thinking of ourselves as one earth. It is only our mindsets that are locked into patterns that don't belong in this century anymore, in this new millennia. Now, I haven't had time to add her to our page of consciousness currencies. I'll show you that too. That's also a great celebrator of common sense, which we'll show you. Okay, here's Alice Paul's consciousness currency. There is her picture. There's her picture of her as a baby with her mother. We now know that that relationship is very important for women. It's very important for all people, a child's relationship to their mother. They learn a lot of nurturing, empathy, bonding, and very important resiliencies very early on in that nurturing and breastfeeding relationship. And we need healing for people, the many people in our culture who did not receive that. And we do have the means of healing both in a mass level and in individualized therapy ways. We can also do quite a bit on education on television and imitation and catharsis by watching important stories and telling their stories and in their own words how this affected them and how they can regain their wholeness and their holy baby child, inner baby child. But here she is saying deeds, not words. And this is Alice Paul. And we have this consciousness currency her, showing her with time travel with common sense and all of the women she worked with, and there were many. And the heart of her, so important to our culture, the gathering of women, and that this is a denomination worth trillions and zillions. It says to engage the global Panchayat Raj, the genuine progress indicator, and the circle process. The three components conceptually of the new millennial golden rule. And of course, we have faith. We don't show it on the back. On the back, it would say, "In God is God, we trust, and in one another." And it would say, "Namaste, the divine within me greets the divine within you." That's what should pass people's hands. That's the transaction we need to make the real wealth of our planet. Okay, and now another birthday of January. Now let's show you Miriam Lambert and Tom Lambert Payne, Mary Lambert and Tom Lambert Payne, and their contemporary Mary. She wrote the Vindications of Rights of Women and then the Vindications of the Rights of Men, because she was thinking in terms of gender balance. And he then later wrote, not long afterwards, an occasional letter on the female sex. A year later, he wrote Common Sense, describing a government in which women would be fully equal. That was completely abrogated in 1789, and the women were so illiterate then they didn't know it. And now we're living in a time when women have been made functional illiterates because all they're watching is the Kardashians and worrying about which nail polish to buy. We have become a consumerist culture for women that has haremized women and made them lose their deeper capacities for understanding and awareness. Our IQs are going down. Our women are not raising our children with the same kind of loving integrity that they need for themselves and need to be respected for and have credited in the economics of the world using the genuine progress indicator. And so here is the Wollstonecraft, who was a great inspiration to the thinking of Tom Paine and many other people of the time. And he to her, that worked both ways, or that couple to her. See, when you time travel with common sense and you think of yourself as a true Q, you know there will come a time, just as in the television series Quantum Leap, that you can literally jump in and out of an observational timeline, at least in concept and in virtual reality. So here is Mary Wollstonecraft. Let's go get her. Let's see. Here's a picture of Mary Wollstonecraft. And then we have a picture of her on one of the consciousness currencies with Mary Lambert. I don't know if I can find that so easily, but I will show you the one with Mary Lambert and Tom Paine together. Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Lambert died in childbirth in the 1700s. It was common then, and the women were such second-class citizens that it wasn't even noticed. It was just taken as normal that women would just die in childbirth. Here's Mary and Tom Lambert Payne, the givers of common sense. He, of course, wrote Common Sense. She had passed away in childbirth by then. He did marry a second time, a woman by the name of, I believe, Elizabeth Olive. It ended in divorce. We don't know why, but they must have been under terrible pressure. He wasn't popular. People admired him. He had a huge following, but there were others who were very affronted by him. A lot of people believed in monarchy in that time. And so he had enormous courage. And of course, courage brings stress, and they had some. The general medical care at that time was in the hands of male doctors, and there were lots of deaths of women and children in childbirth. But this is the true founding couple of the United States of America, or North America. And as they said, and he said, my country is the world. My religion is to do good. He was involved in the French Revolution. He was involved in English politics, trying to bring an end to monarchy there. He was arrested in the United States, in France, and in England. This man was a real Mahatma Gandhi in our times, and as I say, I believe he was the reincarnation of the Apostle Thomas. And the one thing that, and she would have been the reincarnation, very likely, perhaps, of Jesus's sister, Marian. I believe that reincarnation plays a huge role in why people do what they do, and why I have done what I do, and what we all do what we do, because there are personalities that preceded us that left important imagery on the universe, an important imprint on the universe itself, and needs to be carried and is carried. The spirit comes into, through reading, through some form of contact, through a common ancestry, another person who comes at another time. And we time travel with common sense through our own and each other's family trees, and look for the intersections and recognize that they are there. Okay, so there's their consciousness currencies. Then another person this week that we're remembering is Hannah Greenebaum Solomon. She was the first woman to organize an actual, I believe, the first woman to actually organize a Congress for women. Julia Ward Howe called for them. She was the first woman to call for it. I believe Hannah Greenebaum Solomon was the first woman to do it. And I went to her grammar school, an elementary school named for her. And my social studies teacher, who taught us about democracy, and also my sister, and I believe possibly other members of her family, I'm not sure, but certainly they were in the classroom that she taught in, taught us about democracy. I was in her classroom, going to her class after lunch at home with my mom, when my mom came running out to me to tell me that John F. Kennedy had been shot. And I'll never forget that day in Mrs. Light's classroom, how we were all crying and she was crying. And we tried to understand, and now I understand that what killed John F. Kennedy was patriotism. And it is the same reason that his wife and his daughters have not been called president. It's the same force that killed him, and it's the same force that denied them. And that's why his daughter and his son and his daughter-in-law didn't make it yet, but Carolyn could. And we've written to her, and she knows about this. But she can make it to a higher office than president. She can become a true Q, co-secretary general, co-savior, a true Q, savior of the planet via the new millennial golden rule. So here's where my sister and I and my nephew and other young women and men that we knew all went to grammar school at Hannah Greenebaum Solomon School. And I'll show you Hannah Greenebaum Solomon, who was born on this day. And we have an essay or two on our various websites about her. You can just put her name in there and it'll come up and you'll find it. Now, my family knows I'm giving this broadcast. I hope they're listening. I don't know if they're listening. I've been calling them and calling them and calling them to come. I call them during the broadcasts. I will do that again tomorrow. I will do that. I don't do it when it's really late at night. I don't like to call people later at night, but I want them to know this is occurring, and I will make sure to talk about it with them in emails tomorrow, that they were mentioned again in relation to Hannah Greenebaum Solomon. carrying her tradition, being influenced and living right near her legacy. Here. She was also very involved in the Columbian Exposition in 1893, I think it was, in Chicago, where they held the first Parliament of Religions and the first Congress, Representative Congress of Women. She was involved in both. She gathered the first Congress within her faith, but I now recognize, in my opinion, that it was higher service when she was involved in the Parliament of Religions, and there was a fairly large number of women who spoke in that parliament in 1893, but not as many, and it was almost more significant. Right now, we're in a regressed situation with regard to the parliaments of religions, and you can read about that on the website. That organization has been taken over by regression and tokenism, and the women are not being properly represented, and they're not dealing with the fact that too many of the religions that pretend to be religions on this planet are not real faiths, because they leave out the mother. And I will say that directly to any imam, any guru, or any pope who pretends to be a religious leader. You are not. I am the paraclete. I speak to you and I say that you are misleading millions and billions of people. So stop it. I have absolutely no fear. If anything happens to me, I'll go to a better heaven. But I don't want that, because you need me here. If anything happens to you, your world will go to hell and be gone. You need me here. So here's Hannah Greenebaum Solomon. Here is her school, where I and my family and all of our family friends who are also family went. I'll show you her school with this great teachers like Mrs. Sylvia Light, who shares her name with Sylviane Agasinski and the name of one of my best friend's mothers, and is a reference to the trees of nature, which of course is embedded in the name of Greenebaum, the green tree. And Solomon means wisdom in Hebrew. And Aramaic also. Okay, there's her school, and we've made the tree to have Christmas lights and Easter eggs on it, and the Stargate, our Statue of Liberty, our world, our breastfeeding mother, and our solar panels, and our insignia of the Co-Federation of Planets, a rainbow, and the solar power of the sun. The name Solomon has soul right in it, S-O-L, the ancient name for the sun. So this is where my sister and I and my nephew, and our family went to school. Our mother went here very frequently to parent-teacher conferences, meeting with Mrs. Light and other teachers. This was a very holy place. I'm afraid it's very fallen right now. The women are haremized, the teachers. There is a male principal instead of the female principal that I had when I was there, Mrs. Blanche Pruka. It's once again following the old pattern, old haremizing pattern. It's falling. That's what's happened. Because it happened because women like myself and many of our friends left the Chicago area, and without the computer, we couldn't find a way to stay in touch. And the sad thing now is I'm offering them this way, and many of them are having trouble grappling onto it. I am begging and pleading and making sure they know about these broadcasts, because I know that eventually if they do come back to these Tree of Life broadcasts that I have, these Green Tree of Life broadcasts that I have, that they will learn more than they did at Solomon School, and that the internet is a much bigger classroom, and we have it to share together now. And so that's for that. And now I'm also going to show you another January birthday of a woman who's talked extensively about how controlled the media is against women. And that is Geena Davis, who is a Mensa genius and who I have spoken with her organization. But I'm afraid that she is also deferring and trivializing her thinking on this. She's focusing on the cartoon characters of women and what's going on in the entertainment realm. She has forgotten that she spoke about gender parity to some great extent and then dropped it. In the political arena, she has dropped it. I don't know if she came under pressure or what happened. Maybe she felt the women around her were not receptive. I find that quite frequently, and I'm beginning to think that the American female is becoming quite retarded. We need to wake them up. Now, the name Geena Davis is a revelation because the name Geena is obviously Italian. And so she is likely a descendant of Atlantis also. The name Davis is similar to Devi. She has the goddess within her name. But, you know, to establish contact among women, I have to make sure that she will know and they will all come to know that I'm the Paraclete and I am here to save you all, and I can do it with the new millennial golden rule if you will gather with me in a circle. There's the Geena Davis consciousness currency that I showed on one of my other broadcasts. Let's see if this is showing now. I hope it is. I hope you have been looking at this with me. I have to double check. I forget that sometimes the Google Hangouts doesn't keep the screenshots going. I have to be sure that it is. It looks like it didn't quite get there. Let's see. Okay, I need to do another shift of the screen share here. I'm not sure if you saw everything I'm talking about the conscious. There's our consciousness currency with Geena Davis also wearing the Confederation insignia. These were sent directly to her organization when they did a fundraiser last year. So, now, let's see. I'd like to get back and show you my family and our consciousness currencies again. And you're all my family. This is just my closest family, and I have the strongest emotional bonds to. And the members of this family don't seem very bonded to one another or to me. And it's very strange. And it's a sign of hierarchy impacting even the most gifted people in the most negative way.
Now, I'm thinking that even though a lot of these people have been unresponsive to my outreach, I think I'm going to start just pepper calling them during the broadcasts to give them a sense of connection to it. And it'll just be a quick, maybe I'll give them a signal that when the phone rings a short 3 times and then a long 3 times or whatever, 3 times and then a stop and then twice, that it's me calling from a conference. And maybe that way I can just make a kind of a smoke signal for them and they can come to the powwow. Okay. And then we have, again, our families, consciousness currencies. And we could do many, many more. The most important one is the one that shows all of us together, and I'll show that to you right away. And we can certainly gather this grouping on a Hangout if they'll come. That's what I'm offering them. When they do that, they'll have eternal life. Without it, they're denying themselves life and sustainability. And I hope that God will be caring enough about them to give them a wake-up call and will motivate them to come back and come into the conferences. Here it is. This is our intergenerational community. You saw in the picture, and we've put them on a conscious currency. The women and the young people, the female and male youth, age 37 and younger, and the family tree in between. And it looks like an infinity symbol, and it is. That's how you do it. You make a circle of women, and then you make a circle invited with them of women, of younger women and youth, men. And you discuss the New Millennial Golden Rule together. You bring it to your local global neighborhood. You also assist them with the going solar, which is an aspect of the genuine progress indicator, that which sustains the environment. And I'll show you our kitties kits. You met the kitties earlier in the broadcast today. Yeah, I think I'm going to make an outreach call in a moment. I can just feel that the nature is sad that women are not coming to this, and see if we can get somebody to come. Well, I forgot what I was looking for here. Let's see. Oh, the kitties kits. And of course, we have an essay describing how you can use these kitties kits to carry forth the New Millennial Golden Rule within a very attractive packaging and process for your local, global, and universal neighborhood. I'm waiting for it to come up.
In the meantime, why don't I make a outreach call? We'll put this on mute for a minute. I'm going to think you have to teach them. Scott, I don't fish. We're going to suggest that you might want to visit the page that we're showing here right now, the Solar Links and Resources, which is a kit we call the Save the World Solar Kit. You saw our kitties, and it was inspired by them. But it does involve genealogical time travel through the life of your own family, extended family, and community, imagining them as if they had women's full genius operating all during their many generations previous to you. Solar power, would it have developed earlier had women been educated earlier? I think it would have been. I personally would reveal that it was women who invented the wheel. Women like round things. Women are more round. They invented the wheel. Now, many women are involved in the solar energy industry. There's a wonderful young lady whose name is really and truthfully Eden Full. Full Eden is her name. It's a Chinese name. It's Eden Full Go. Go to Full Eden by endorsing and helping a woman like Eden Full. And she's one of the resources mentioned in the Re-Evolutionary Kitties Save the World kit, because she has developed the ability to have, by using a simple bottle of water and a bamboo stick, have any solar panel turn toward the sun more efficiently during the day. Her technology is extremely inexpensive, and yet it gives enormous efficiency to the solar panels. This is from a woman, a young woman. She came up with this at age 19. So this is what we've been missing in our society for thousands of years, and we're just beginning to get it back. We better not stop now. Take some time to look at this, and I'll be back in a little while and continue the rest of the broadcast. I need to take a little break. We haven't had anyone call in on the conference line, so it's just been me. I expected a little bit more of a panel discussion, a circle. That's what I prefer. I prefer to lead in a circle. I prefer to co-lead, but I'm happy to do the speech a little bit later. I have a dream speech. I'll give it in just a little while. Coming back soon, so continue to watch and read this essay. tonight. Okay, we're back. We hope you enjoyed looking at this, the solar links. Excuse me. We'll come back to that sometime tomorrow or the next few days. But for tonight, we also want to go to the sermon of the Common Sense Co-Federation of Planets, based on the I Have a Dream speech. It is intersectional. It is not just about race. It is first and foremost about gender as the template on which all other prejudices begin to metastasize. As one man has written, genderism is the world's oldest prejudice. And we'll also get back to tomorrow and the next day, the days the earth stood still, what the gifts are that offer you. I really should start with that. But we'll just orient you to what's a little bit more expected at this time, which is the words of the family of Coretta and Martin Luther King. There's no way of knowing how much inspiration and even wording Martin Luther King derived from Coretta or from other women as well as men in his life. We do know that Einstein, Mileva Merrick's husband, Albert Einstein, is often thought to have taken a considerable amount of help from Mileva Merrick in the development of the theory of relativity. There's no way to know what roles the women played in the background. We know they did the nurturing and the caring for the entire family. Okay, so let's make sure our screen share is on. Okay, this way. Be right back.
It's all right, kitty. You didn't hurt anything. Didn't hurt anything. My baby, you didn't hurt anything. It's okay. The speakers are almost indestructible. Okay, we're back. Continuing our broadcast. We're kind of a mixture down home and comfort and highfalutin ideas that are just like the Knox of Stargate. They were kind of simple folk, and yet they had enormous powers, and so that's what we want to give you. Okay? We want to give you immortal life. We're going to do it. Okay, our sermon segment of the Martin Luther King, the entire speech is there. We have an introduction to it about a lot of what we've been talking about with you tonight. This is the page in the essay. We'll show you on screen share. It's at 5050now.wordpress.com under the sermon sections, and it's the sermon We All Have a Dream to Make Reality Now. And reality, that means for all of us, not just for some of us, but for all of us. And we quote Gina Davis quoting Martin Luther King. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Well, that's been true for hundreds of years now. It really was true since the fall of Atlantis. However, and the Hellenistic Greeks had a holiday called Demokratia, which was based on the concepts of Atlantean democracy. But lo and behold, what did they do? They kept the women out. They kept the slaves out. They screwed it up and they called it Demokratia. Pretty much what we have going on right now, because that's what patriarchy does to people. It makes them into complete hypocrites. It draws the line around the male gender, and once it does that, it draws the line around the majority race, and once it does that, it draws the line around the richest members of the majority race, and you have your patriarchy that grows out of the initial hierarchy that genderism is, that splits up the human family and degrades the human family and makes the nurturing tasks seem less important and less experientially necessary for decision making. But in fact, they are the most important. And so we'll read the speech. Which I integrated with a deeper time travel understanding, and especially the issue of genderism.
I'll just start this now and we'll continue to pick it up tomorrow morning. I think that's the best way to do it. So here is the I Have a Dream speech revisited, made intersectional, global, and universal. For all of the nativities of Earth, of every New Year's baby within all of us. The necessary step to making the dream an awakened reality. With just a little thousands of not over 200, but several thousands of years overdue common sense, and in the recognition of Zijiti, the miracle that happens when at least 3 women cooperate, and the coinciding beneficial interaction of female and male, that 50-50 common sense. I, we, and we all have a dream made real. Now, nobody's listening to me right now. Right now, this is like my dream and nobody else remembers it. And they're suppressing it, is what's going on. They're suppressing it in order to fit in with patriarchy, which has risen its ugly head and making everybody crazy. But I'm saying, and here's the dream, that is reality. We've already made this Congress, I've told you. We've already passed our laws. We've already passed the Solar Marshall Plan. We're enacting it. Okay? It's that simple. We are happy to join with you today in what will go down in Hern history as the gentlest and simplest, humblest, yet most fully human demonstration for freedom in the Hern history of our world. We are beginning of a time of 9 months of gestation of bonobo, peace, culture, kinship of kindness, instead of a planet of the 2 dangerous apes, chimpanzee-like domination culture, and hierarchical and divided nationalism, forgetting kinship system, risen to be know-how goddess government, a fully risen humanity in anointedness, the cosmic Christ in Greek, that shall thereafter become a planet fully with both major genders balanced and generationally balanced, age and majority and minority representatively balanced in every neighborhood on our universally reconnecting Earth via the new millennial golden rule. I think we'll just begin this now and complete it tomorrow. It's getting to be midnight. We'll just talk about another 15 minutes or so, and then we'll quit and continue to pick it up tomorrow. You can read it overnight, make it your own. I'd be happy to recite it with me. We can do it in responsive reading. I don't like to be a single leader because all people have leadership within them. In the circle process, the founders of one of the big groups that promoting them, Christina Baldrum, says, and titled their work, The Circle Process, A Leader in Every Seat. I am Paraclete. I am the most aware of the impact of egalitarian society as the option of choice instead of patriarchal. But that doesn't mean that you aren't. Just because I am ready now and I am ready first doesn't mean you cannot be co-first with me. Over 70 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today because the speech was given at the Lincoln Memorial. See, if we were a liberated culture, it would be called the Todd Lincoln Memorial. Signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which was limited in scope because then, as sadly too commonly now, his wife and all the women of every hue and youth, even those lost on the battlefield and lost at home, as his own children were of that time, did not realize their equal importance with older men and power for good. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light, of hope to millions of minority slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak, and that's why we'll continue this tomorrow. I think we'll just continue this tomorrow. Let me just, I think we'll continue this tomorrow and make it our daybreak speech. Now, let me say, there is a young man, there are several young men in my family who are ready and better to fulfill the thoughts of Martin Luther King. In fact, there's a lot of them. They're all over the planet. There are sons and there are our nephews, and there are grandsons. There are also, even more important, the equivalents of Coretta in the background who need to be brought in the foreground, because all of the injustices that Martin Luther King was dealing with grew out of the fact that the Native Americans, that the African Americans had been inducted into a patriarchal culture. Now, they had patriarchal culture in some parts of Africa, but other parts of Africa were more matrilineal, and the goddess was more emphasized. Where the African American experience in slavery began was when Arab slave traders began to teach the ways of haremizing to Africans. And then the Africans turned on themselves and sold some of their own women and men. So slavery was not only a white deal, it was a patriarchal deal involving all the races that were involved. That's where the deal came from. It came from a few old guys on top who didn't mind pushing the other people around. That's patriarchy. We have to understand this, that racism grows out of sexism, that minorityism and majorityism grow out of sexism, that nationalism as a competitive and non-cooperative experience grows out of sexism. Sexism, the world's oldest prejudice. We have a very old dream to return to reality now, because the Atlantis civilization was not patriarchal, and it was egalitarian, and was the longest survived civilization known on the face of the earth. Now, we have these facts. How is it we're running around like monkeys missing them? Because people are watching television, and people cannot separate themselves from their device and their own mind. They're not well read enough. They're reading what's prepared for them, and they're not digesting and linking all the links to the puzzle of humanity. The puzzle of humanity's illnesses is anthropology. It has to do with whether or not you have a circle society or a top-down hierarchy. That is the key difference between an egalitarian, matrilineal, and egalitarian society and one that is patriarchal. The results of patriarchy are to give a quick jolt at the beginning, lots of goodies that you take over someone else, like we did the Native Americans. You get lots of goodies. But over time, cumulatively, you eat yourself up alive, just as you did the people you conquered. It eventually comes back to haunt on you, and like the Romans, you die in your own shit and poison. That's what we're doing in North America. But we can change that by adopting the New Millennial Golden Rule and very quickly move our way out of that danger. So I'll begin reading this, and we'll continue it and read it again in the morning, because it does talk about daybreak. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light, of hope, to millions of minority slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But even then, women, even that not at all fully successful and quickly unreconstructed emancipator's wife, was herself not at all emancipated, did not have the vote, and could not hold reparative and equal office, because common sense had been ignored. And her work, and that of women of all hues, and the promise of youth was also not counted in this nation in every nation. As a result, a great opportunity was again lost, and the national region was plunged into civil war, ignoring Elizabeth Cady Stanton's pleas to Abraham Lincoln to give women the vote. As a result, a great opportunity was again lost, and the national region was plunged into civil war, just as our world human family, our ought-to-be beloved community now, is now making war upon itself in so many places, and a war on nature, even on our own bodies, ignoring nature, that clearly threatens planetary extinction of humanity and all life on this planet. Over 100 years later, the woman, the minority, and indeed even the common men and the majority you in any place, and especially all their children and youth, all human beings capable of common sense, love, and logic, all of these people are still everywhere, sadly crippled by the manacles of hierarchy, systemic segregation, and the chains of unconscious and often habitual discrimination, stifling, ignoring, relational aggression, and you name it, and bullying. Over 100 years later, so many who are woman, youth, child, and minority live on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of a few people's material but unsustainable prosperity, of fool's gold, hoarded mostly by old men in flagrant disregard of even the ancient rebalancer, the Jubilee. 100 years later, the woman, the youth, and the minority are especially still languishing in the corners of American society and find themselves exiles in their own land, especially when it comes to decision making. And the male and the majority of every hue everywhere are also leaning into extreme indentured enslaving exploitation via student loans and all manner of debt imposed by a few on the many, bringing soon hellish planeticide and Armageddon. So we have come here today to dramatize a shamefully sinful condition. In a sense, we have come to all our nation's capitals and world's banks to cash a check. And you can find that on our New Millennial page there on our 50/50 page, our checks that cash the New Millennial Golden Rule. And this time to go further and even transform that check via the New Millennial Golden Rule. When the architects of our American Republic wrote the words of the Constitution, the preamble said, "We, the people," but the devil was in the details of hypocrisy that forgot the ladies, left the slavery and native genocide in, and common sense out. And the Declaration of Independence, which Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Frederick Douglass made more complete in 1848's Declaration of Seneca Falls of sentiments. They were then signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all people, yes, female, as well as male people, so-called black and many-hued people, as well as so-called white people, young and less young, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and a reasonable chance of achieving it in a culture that treasured real happiness, not just a stack of paper or digits in a bank or a computer. And I'll say something about this issue of the Declaration of Independence. You heard Anna Marie singing Cricket, White Calf, Buffalo Woman yesterday or day before as a co-host of this conference, this telebroadcast. On July 4th, she and I, straight from my visit from with Amma, who was visiting here from India and bestowing hugs with extreme democracy on everyone who came before her, Anna Marie and I then also, and I gave Alma consciousness currencies with not only her pictures, but those of all Native Americans, my own family, and the links of all the these various family trees together. On July 4th, Anna Marie Singing Cricket and I had a teleconference with Virginia Valentine Coles, who I need to speak with today. I was given a clue. I was given a call by a telemarketer by the name of Valentina, and I'm going to call Ms. Valentine Coles. We have to remember that Tom Jefferson was a fan of Thomas Lambert Paine, but he sold him short. Tom Paine wanted to do away with slavery and have women fully involved in the decision-making and the assemblies. Tom Jefferson did not bring his wife, did not bring his daughters. Maybe, I don't know if they wanted to come or not, but there were women who did want to come, like Abigail Adams and Mercy Otis Warren. Where were they? They were not allowed. And the Native Americans were not allowed. Now, Virginia Valentine Coles, was the wife of a man that I met in 1976. In the year of the centennial, he was traveling in Chicago, and I met him at, I think it was either Loyola University Library or Hill's Library, the Chicago Public Library. And we were sitting at the table together, and I just happened to start talking with him, and he started talking with me. He was the spitting image of Thomas Jefferson, a tall, attractively handsome young man with red hair. And we talked, and at that time I had no gender consciousness, and neither did he. And we were ships passing in the night. I enjoyed meeting him. I invited him to come visit again. I did not hear from him again. Then, as I was thinking about this whole area last year, I encountered a webpage called Meet Thomas Jefferson, and lo and behold, there was Rob Coles, the 5th great grandson of Thomas Jefferson, who, by the way, Virginia Valentine Coles told me, a fact that is not even mentioned on their website, that he is also a descendant of Pocahontas. She, Virginia Valentine Coles, is descending from the Iroquois Confederation that gave Benjamin Franklin the idea of a confederation for the colonies. Anna Marie and Singing Cricket and Virginia Valentine Coles and I had a discussion about the New Millennial Golden Rule, and she was very enthusiastic about it. Then when I called her again, she explained to me she was having a health problem, and I never heard from her again. And this is typical behavior for women in the North American culture. You'll notice that our White Calf Buffalo woman has not come yet again. She was invited to come to this broadcast tonight. But women who are immersed in North American culture are in a state of extreme induced mentally programmed ambivalence. They don't seem to want to know that they now ranked 94th in the world in representation for women. They have other priorities. They have other priorities. The reason Martin Luther King was assassinated was patriarchy. The reason Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated was patriarchy. The reason John F. Kennedy was assassinated was patriarchy. The reason that Jesus of Nazareth was crucified was patriarchy. The reason that patriarchy is effective is that not only men ignore women, but women ignore women. And therein lies the dilemma of our moments. Men are so filled up with themselves and their own systems, they don't even notice that the women are ignoring each other in North America. Some women are actively hostile to other women. When I first, in the early years after I ran for the gender balance ticket in the year 2000, heard that Hillary Clinton might run for president in the year 2004, I thought. I was very excited about it, and I was talking about it at a store locally here, and I encountered a very nice looking, middle-class looking woman in her probably late 50s, and I mentioned to her that I was happy that Hillary Clinton was running for president, although I had some reservations about the general culture and how that was affecting Hillary's notions. And the woman said to me, I would never vote for a woman for president. The woman said this. This was not a man saying this. This was a woman. She was evidencing the world's oldest prejudice. Women are deeply embedded in patriarchy, and many of them don't even acknowledge it or admit it. Those that do acknowledge it and admit it and claim it with pride have no idea of what's going on in the rest of the world. This is our condition in North America today. We're going to continue this broadcast tomorrow. We're going to stop it right now. We've been on long enough. You've had plenty of opportunity to see what we have to offer. Go to 5050now.wordpress.com. I am the Paraclete. I am the first but not last only cosmic Christ. I'm a female Messiah. I am surrounded by a world of female Messiahs who do not know that they are. I am a true Q, and we have the same condition for our youth. Many young women and young men who are not stupid and old enough to get completely bollocksed up by patriarchy, who are ready to co-rule, and we have already founded that government, the New Millennial Co-Federation of Earth and Planets. We are not concerned with national boundary. We are concerned with your awareness of your genealogy, your recognition with gratitude to your ancestry that were female, and your understanding of the male ancestry in a context that also harmed them and most of the men of their generation, called patriarchy. We have instead the authorship of sustainable egalitarian culture, risen culture, peace culture, the culture of the Q continuum, the culture of the equinox, of the Nox of Stargate, and the Q continuum of Star Trek. Do you want eternal life? I'm giving it to you on a platter, a silver and golden ruled platter. It's here, and I am here, and unless something happens that I disappear, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this, and if you keep ignoring me, your conditions will get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Do you want to live in hellish planeticide, or do you want the solar solution to your problems called the New Millennial Golden Rule? The most beloved people in my life know all about this and have been ignoring it. But I know that that's not unusual. When Merrick Einstein first came up with the theory of relativity, everybody laughed at him. Same with Galileo. Galileo was laughed at.
Mahatma Gandhi was laughed at when he said we can get the British to leave India. Anyone who really understands things is initially just laughed at. Because patriarchy makes people very stupid, and they get used to stupid, and then they think smart ideas are weird. So we're going to liberate you from all that. Tomorrow we'll continue the broadcast tomorrow. Thank you for coming. And I will conclude with our musical medley again to inspire. Well, I think we'll just conclude for tonight. We'll come back to this tomorrow, and we'll do the musical medley, and then more of the I Have a Dream that we have made reality. Now, you might say this is just on paper, but no, this is not just on paper, because people know about it. And when things get bad enough, they'll come to this. They'll come to it, and they'll come with their bells on and say, what took me so long? I love you. Every blessing. You are all children of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. You have a divine right to divine democracy, your own apotheosis, eternal life. I am giving it to you. Every blessing. Every blessing in all the languages of all the heritages of our earth and our earths, past, present, future, together. Namaste. Mitakuye Oyasin becomes Mitakuy Ko Seviral. Konks Pox becomes Ko Pox culture, peace culture. We have it, you have it. You have it right here. It's as simple as going to the 5050now.wordpress.com website, reading it in depth and making it your own. Joining among the representatives, divine democracy government, bringing the new millennial goal to rule to your neighborhood, wherever you live. I will bring it, I have been bringing it to mine and to all the neighborhoods that I know of people who I love. And I will continue to do that. And in a little while, it will become the way of this world, and we will become a risen planet, and our future in the universe will be eternal. Every blessing, more tomorrow.